Hi, my name is Denice, and today I'll be talking to you guys about animal testing. My major claim is that the majority of animal tests conducted are unreliable in regards to improved human health. My first point I'll be going over is that animals are poor test subjects because their physiology, anatomy, and metabolism are different from humans. My second point is that most nearly all drugs that pass animal tests fail human clinical trials. And my last point I'll be going over is that alternatives to animal testing provide more accurate responses in regards to humans. My first point is that animals are poor test subjects because their physiology, anatomy, and metabolism are different from humans. According to PETA, or the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, morphine stimulates goats, cats, and horses, while it acts as a depressant in humans. This is because morphine secretes hormones in animals that are different in humans. Another example where animals and humans are different is with penicillin. According to NAVS, or the National Vivisection Society, the antibiotic penicillin is toxic to guinea pigs and ineffective in infected rabbits, but effective in treating bacterial infections in humans. This is because penicillin causes an upset in the beneficial bacteria that lives in these animals' intestines, whereas penicillin attacks only the bacterial cells and not the naturally produced cells in human bodies. My second point is that most nearly all drugs that pass animal trials fail human clinical trials. One example of a drug that passed animal tests but not human tests is thalidomide. Thalidomide was used to treat morning sickness in pregnant women in the 1950s. According to NAVS, thalidomide was safe when tested on animals, but when used by expecting mothers, it led to birth defects in over 10,000 children. Another sample of a medical drug that failed in human trials is Vioxx. Vioxx, an arthritis painkiller, was indicated safe in animals, but estimated 88,000 to 139,000 heart attacks and strokes, 55,000 of them being fatal in Americans, according to the British Medical Journal by Dr. David Graham. As you can see, both of these examples clearly show you that animals do not react the same to medications as humans. My last point is that alternatives to animal testing provide more accurate responses in regards to humans. One of the technologies used as an alternative to animal testing today is epiderm COF, which is an in vitro skin irritation test used on donated human tissue. And according to NEVS, or the New England Anti-Vivisection Society, animal testing on skin irritability misclassified 10 out of 25 test chemicals, while epiderm accurately identified all the test chemicals that irritate human tissue. Another alternative to animal testing is the replacement LD50 test. The lethal dose 50 test is used to determine the dosage of a substance that will kill 50% of the animals given that dosage. Dr. Bjorn Ekwall from the Cytoxology Laboratory in Sweden created a replacement LD50 test that uses donated human tissue instead of animal tissue. The replacement measured toxicity at a precision rate of 85% accuracy in comparison to the original LD50 test used on animals, which has a rate of 61 to 65%. Based on the evidence and research provided, you can assume that the majority of animal tests conducted are unreliable in regards to improved human health. Thank you.
All right, Denise, the proposition's very clear. There's an excellent preview of what the structure is. I do think you need to give us a little bit more background so that we know why there's a controversy here, either because people are failing to move to replacement tests or there is some overriding issue about the animals being used and that there's something that, some immediate harm that's being caused as opposed to the examples that you're providing. The internal part of the speech is very well organized and easy to follow. I do think that there are some assumptions that are missing in the argument. For instance, there seems to be a presupposition that the materials only get tested on animals, and that's not the case. And so the comparison between the human testing and the results that happen when the material gets released to the public or is made available to the public, I think we need to have a little bit of comparison on that so that we can see that those animal tests were largely ignored, for instance, or that they were completely irrelevant. If the human tests confirmed the animal tests and there's an inconsistency in that, that seems to be a little bit problematic. The thalidomide example is almost 60 years old, and it's not a bad example to show that there can in fact be something that is unsafe in or that's unsafe in humans but was safe in animals, and that we missed that. But we're back to the same issue here. Like I said, that's I think one of those important assumptions there, the notion that it gets tested on animals and then it's made available to human beings. That's just not the way things work in that particular field. I thought you had some good examples on that. The statistics on I think you need a little bit more statistical information on the failure rate, but you did have some good statistical information on, for instance, the skin test thing that you were talking about in the last example. There's some factual data that's being presented that usually has a source provided for it. I would be a little careful about citing some of the advocacy groups. I don't know the National Vivisection Association or the other. There was another group that you quoted also. I do know PETA, and PETA carries with it some negative connotations. I don't think anything you presented here was particularly controversial in PETA's data. I think they've provided primarily factual data, so it's not a big deal in this particular context. But a lot of people will hear PETA, and it's like hearing Al Qaeda or the Earth Liberation Front or some whack group, and even though they are saying something that might be accurate, it's tainted by the fact that you've got people who are, basically would call me a slave owner, because I'm holding my pets in bondage, and I have to be punished for that. That's a little bit over the line, I think, for most of your audience. So, like I said, everything that PETA said there, I'm sure is said by somebody else, and it wouldn't be hard to find that. Just think about those kinds of things in the future. It does feel a little bit like you're rushing. All of the points had some good information on them. I just think you're missing an opportunity to make the argument stronger by giving us a little bit more context and some extra backup on those particular points. It's a little, like I said, time-wise, it's barely half of the time in the presentation. Some of that is rushing, some of it is being thin and just going with what the basic information is. All right, thank you.